Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's is a good one, and it comes from a viewer question that wanted to know what's the difference between a Carolina rig and a drop shot. And not specifically the physical difference between them, but when would you use a Carolina rig over a drop shot and vice versa? And it's a really good question because I think a lot of people think they're pretty interchangeable baits. But I'm here to argue that there are definitely times you want to throw a Carolina rig and definitely times you want to throw a drop shot rig. To me, it makes a big difference. And a lot of it comes down to your efficiency on the water and really the type of cover that you're fishing, because they are completely different in my book. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think too. So please, in the comment section, share your thoughts with the rest of us. Before I get into that, guys, I got a special shipment in the mail today. Lots of Abu Garcia Revo reels that are being given out to you guys. Well, those of you that are members to the channel, those are going to be given out on each of the live streams, the monthly live streams that I'm doing. So if you're not a member yet and you're thinking about joining, this is a good time to do it because we'll be giving out reels and a bunch of other stuff at my monthly live streams. If you want to figure out how to do that, if you're on a desktop computer, go to my YouTube homepage, click the join button in the upper right-hand corner. If you're using a mobile device, you need to be using the YouTube app. And at that point, go to my YouTube homepage, click the membership tab at the top of the screen. You find out all the information there. But we've got a bunch of extra videos that are going up for members, and we do monthly live stream. It's been a lot of fun so far. So if you want more content, check that out. All right, guys, so the question was, what's the difference, or when would you throw a drop shot versus a Carolina rig? And I'm going to start this off by saying there is one major difference in the two techniques. The first being that a Carolina rig will have the bait fall to the bottom, meaning you can drag it, and when you're dragging the Carolina rig, your bait is hovering above the bottom, but your bait will settle to the bottom if you stop dragging that Carolina rig. Versus a drop shot, if you hold the drop shot in place and keep tension on your line, your bait will suspend off the bottom. And depending how much of a leader you have between your weight and your drop shot bait, your bait could be suspended anywhere from a few inches off the bottom to several feet off the bottom. And that is the part that makes a really big difference. And that's, to me, the difference that determines where I'm throwing the bait. So let's start with a Carolina rig. A Carolina rig is a proven fish catching tool across the country. And honestly, guys, I'm not making this decision between the two baits at all, regardless of bass species that I'm after. I don't care if you're fishing smallmouth, spotted bass, or largemouth. A Carolina rig and a drop shot are proven fish catchers for all three of those species. So yes, I think there'd be people that are probably going to be like, well, if I'm throwing a drop shot, or if I'm fishing smallmouth, I got to be throwing a drop shot. That's not the case. I can tell you there's a lot of excellent fishermen out there that catch more fish on Carolina rigs than they do drop shots. So again, I don't think the species matters at all. Maybe some of you guys do, but both techniques are two of the best techniques I think there's ever been within bass fishing. So if I'm fishing a Carolina rig, the biggest thing about a Carolina rig for me is the fact that I can cover water quickly, meaning I can throw it out, keep the bait moving, and yes, if I hit, say, a brush pile or a boulder, I can stop it and let my bait kind of sit in that area. But remember, the bait will settle to the bottom, which I do not think generates as many bites. So I'm using a Carolina rig anytime that I'm trying to cover water. I use it much more like a search bait, almost like you'd throw a wobblehead. I throw it out and I keep that bait moving pretty good. It's not a consistent reel. I do much more of a drag, pause, kind of reel up my slack line, drag. So my bait is staying off the bottom the majority of the time. So because that's how I fish it, I'm using a Carolina rig fishing rounded points, flats, road beds, ditches, places where there may not be an isolated piece of cover and it's more about fishing a longer stretch or a bigger area. You know, if you're in the Ozark region, they have a lot of those rounded pea gravel points. They're excellent places to fish, but the fish could be anywhere on that rounded point. So that's what I'm looking for. I also like to throw a Carolina rig when I'm looking for deep fish. So if I've got a hump, say in 30 feet of water, and they might be smallmouth, or if I'm fishing somewhere for largemouth and I've got a hump that's say in 15 feet of water or a super long tapering point, I'll use that Carolina rig as a search bait to locate the key areas. Once I locate it, I'll probably switch to something like a drop shot, because to me, a drop shot is much more about isolated cover. So we'll switch over to the drop shot now. Because I view that as a isolated bait or isolated cover bait, I want to know where I'm casting my drop shot. Meaning, I want to know, is there a brush pile there? Is there a boulder? Is there a old sunken bridge on that roadbed? The key here is I personally feel like your drop shot excels when you know where the fish are, because you can leave it there and you can keep your bait suspended off the bottom. A lot of times I'll throw it out, let it fall to the bottom, get it up to the piece of cover that I want to fish, and I'll just hold it. I'm not shaking it, not doing anything. I'm just making sure that my bait is separated off the bottom, because to me, that's the number one thing that will generate those bites. And maybe I'll give it slack and let my bait fall to the bottom, but at some point I'll pick it back up again to get it to suspend, because that's a really good way to generate bites. So for me, when I'm talking about fishing a drop shot, yes, there's times I might fish a big flat, say I'm smallmouth fishing, but I can almost assure you that if I'm throwing a drop shot on a big flat, I'm fishing a rock transition. So again, that's almost like an isolated piece of cover. So if I know that you go from rock to sand and there's a line there, I'll throw the drop shot right on that transition. But generally speaking, I'm not going to be on a big flat just fan casting a drop shot, because honestly, I don't think it's that efficient. I think I could do better throwing a swim bait or throwing a jerk bait, trying to locate areas that have fish in them, and then slow down with the drop shot. That's a really big thing for me. So I do feel like the two baits are somewhat similar. I don't truly feel like they are very interchangeable. To me, a Carolina rig's about covering water. A drop shot's about fishing isolated pieces of cover. And I think a lot of people would probably tend to agree with that, but I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you think they're interchangeable? Do you think they're completely separate? Do you think one of the techniques is way better than the other, where you don't even throw the other one? So guys, share with the rest of us. Let us know your thoughts. I honestly feel like a Texas or a Carolina rig is kind of going away. I don't think there's as many people that use it because some of the other techniques that have come about. But I do think that the Carolina rig is still one of the best fish catching tools that we have. It's been proven for years and years. I mean, it's something that has been around forever, and there's a lot of things that you can do to it to generate some extra bites. But it's a great bait. So if you have forgotten about it, I think you might want to bring it back into your arsenal. And at the same time, if you're a Carolina rig guy and you're not throwing a drop shot, you might want to figure out how to work that into your arsenal as well, because both baits should be in your boat. They both catch a lot of fish, regardless of species. So thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. Another video coming tomorrow.